So now that we've learned a little bit about the grid, let's change gears and talk about blocks. Universe breaks down all of the elements that are used to create a website into components called blocks. So instead of code, you can simply add these blocks, resize, style, and edit them to get your site to look and feel just the way that you'd like. Now, when you tap on the actual grid itself, the block palette pops up. And there's a number of ways that you can start adding blocks to your page. One is to simply tap a single tile on the grid. The other option is to select a designated portion of the grid by tapping and dragging across the grid to add a specific block size. So instead of a 1x1 photo, I can add a 3x3 photo. Now, when I add a block, you'll see that a little menu appears at the bottom. We call this the actual block palette. So this is the photo block palette. And you'll see that when I add a photo, let's see, I'm going to add this photo right here. A number of different options are available at the top. So I can style the photo, and then there's options to link this photo somewhere. So each block has one of these block palettes, and it allows for you to customize that specific block in a number of different ways. So for the photo block, you'll see that there are filters available to me that are really fun and cool to play around with. And then I can also add masks, so play around with a handful of different ones. Oh, that looks cool. I'll go with that. And then, of course, if I wanted to link this image to something, I can link it to another website, I can link it to another page on my site, or I can make it so that when someone clicks on it on my when browsing it, it just opens into a full image. And you can see the same thing with the text block. So we've got the basics. I just selected a certain portion of the grid to add a text block to. We'll call this a title. And when I tap on the Style tab inside of the text block palette, you'll see there are different fonts available for me to use. I can change the actual size of the text inside of the block, and then I can also change the alignment, so I can center it real quick, maybe even make it, that looks kind of cool. And then I can change the color of the font, so I can make the text white, and I can make the background black. And then we can also add different masks to the text as well. As you can see, I'm going to leave it like that. And so now that blocks are laid out on the grid, we can play around with them. So I can move it, I can position it anywhere on the actual page, and then I can also resize it. So you could resize blocks once they're actually on the grid. One is by tapping on a corner. So you'll see if I tap and hold by a corner, I can resize the block. The other option is to pinch and zoom. So you can pinch and scale. Both ways work. I prefer to pinch just because the tapping of a corner can be a little nitpicky. But once you have that down, you've basically covered all the basic elements. You can delete a block from the grid by either tapping on it and selecting this little trash can in the left. The other option is you can tap and hold on a block, and you can delete it from the context menu, as you can see. So we've covered resizing, we've covered adding the actual block, and of course the last thing that you can do, let's say that these were each blog post that I was trying to create, you can actually duplicate blocks. So make it really easy to replicate. So I'm going to copy this by tapping and holding on the image, and I can drag down here, and then you'll see that after a block is copied, you can actually have the option just tap on it again, and look at that, it just pastes. And I can do the same thing for the text block, and I can go down here and I can paste, and just like that I have created a menu page for my blog post. And you can You can do that for just about anything. You can do it for your photo galleries, you can do it for your poems, you name it. Once you know how to play around with the actual blocks, the universe is yours. Have fun.